Hi, my name is Jim and I was retired. So, how long do you think you're going to live? Some of us who are approaching retirement or in retirement sometimes underestimate how long we're going to live, and that's longevity risk. In this video, we're going to look at that question: how long do you think you're going to live? Interesting articles that I've been reading in the last week, including this one about how long we expect to live. And that is a fundamental flaw with a lot of people in their retirement planning. They underestimate how long they're going to live. This article in The Hill was one that I read that said retirees are underestimating how long they will live. And it says that a significant share of older Americans underestimate how long their retirement is going to last, i.e., how long they're going to live. Most people know that the average American lives to the age of between 75 and 80. But what less well known is that life expectancy rises with age. So you can't go by the longevity estimates at birth. By the time we're at 65, an American man can expect to live to 82, and a woman can expect to live to 85. This knowledge of the longevity literacy and the fact that most of us don't have it, it was in a TIAA Institute survey that said that about a quarter of Americans underestimate the life expectancy of a 60-year-old. Another 28% said they just don't know. Among baby boomers, the youngest of whom are approaching 60, and some of us are in our 60s, more than 2/5 of the survey respondents either guessed how long their longevity or punted on the question. And the survey leader was shocked by that data. It said particularly dismayed was the large share of respondents who could not answer the longevity question even though it was a multiple choice answer. We gave them the answer and they don't know. Confusion over human lifespan complicates the business of planning for retirement. This is the phase in life where you are spending down what you've saved, and if you don't know the definitive number of years, it's a problem with your planning. More than 2/5 of baby boomers have no retirement savings, even as the post-war generation enters their retirement years, the census data shows us. The median baby boomer household held 134,000 in retirement savings in 2019, according to NerdWallet estimates. By most accounts, even that figure is not nearly enough. Human longevity does not stop rising at 60. An American who retires at 65 can expect to live to 85, according to Social Security projections. We don't know why people are so off in their expectations, said Gal Wetstein, a senior research economist for Boston College. I think there is some evidence that people don't account for the fact that they've already lived so to a certain age when they try to guess on how long they might have left. The biggest risk facing retirees is outliving our savings, Wetstein said, citing research from the school's Center for Retirement Research. That fact, too, is lost to many Americans. People approaching retirement wrongly assume that stock market volatility is their single biggest financial peril, when in fact, the far greater risks are living so long that your money runs out. Increasing lifespans ranks as one of the great human advances in the past century. An American born in 1900 could expect to live to 47. By 1950, life expectancy had risen to 68. U.S. lifespan peaked at 79 in 2019 and then dropped during the COVID pandemic. Now, they're not sure if that drop is going to last or whether that was just a blip caused by the pandemic. But again, that 79 is from birth. Longevity bonus has become more pronounced over time as we outlive various perils that killed our forebears. A Stanford researcher examined people who lived past 65 in developed countries and found that the human lifespan increases by 3 years with every generation. But such nuances are lost on the people outside the scholarly community. We're too dumb to understand this, I guess. The researchers of the Employee Benefit Research Institute have repeatedly surveyed Americans at all ages about longevity and found consistent befuddlement. One of the consistent things is that there was a 20% of people who don't know, who couldn't give an answer, said Craig Copeland, director of wealth benefits research for the Institute. So if you're starting out with 1/5 of the people who have no idea how long they're going to live, that's a problem. Okay, retirees fared somewhat better on the survey question because we're closer to it. In 2022, Copeland said more than half of retired persons demonstrated knowledge that the American at 65 can expect to live 20 more years. Even in that group, however, 1/5 of the respondents didn't answer the question. We don't like to think about it. Let's be honest. Boston College researchers have found that many working age Americans are pessimistic about how long they're going to live. The folklore is out there, retire and you're going to die in a few years. It's just not the case. And that's, I think, one of the things fueling this kind of research. Even people in their 50s and 60s tend to think that they're not going to live very long or not as long as life expectancy for the person their age, he said. Where that kind of flips is people in their 70s, which is late for making decisions about retirement. Women show a much greater longevity literacy than men. Just don't ask women their age, okay? But you could ask them how long they're going to live. In the TIAA survey, 43% of the women answered the question, the lifespan question, correctly, compared to just 32% of men. That concerns me, Kalari said, of the male respondents, because what it implies to me is that they're incurring longevity risk and they will outlive their money. People with greater literacy about human lifespans are more likely to save for retirement. They are more likely to have calculated how much money they will need, and they are more likely to be satisfied with retirement. Lack of longevity literacy leaves many Americans unprepared to finance retirement. There are many other factors. Millions of Americans count on Social Security to see them through retirement, but the monthly Social Security checks of retiree workers average around $1,800, much less than the typical family spends. Now, in my own research, Social Security is only going to account for about 40% of what you need. I'm largely relying on my personal savings since I don't have a very large pension. People used to rely on pension, Social Security, and their savings as a three-legged stool. And increasingly, it's a two-legged stool, and that's not very balanced. Workers who do save for retirement often don't save enough. The latest Retirement Confidence Survey of the Employee Benefits Research Institute, only 64% of workers voiced confidence that they would have enough money to live comfortably through their retirement years. And another measure, Boston College's National Retirement Risk Index, finds roughly half of the working age Americans are at risk of being financially unprepared for retirement. Just as worrisome, perhaps, about 1/3 of households are aware that they are unprepared. So we know the problem's there, and we're just not preparing for it. Many Americans overestimate how much money they have on hand for retirement and underestimate what they will need. Homeowners often tend to focus too much on the rising value of their home and too little on how much they owe on the mortgage. Now, if you're like me, you retire the mortgage before you find yourself retired. Outliving one's retirement savings is only the largest among several risks Americans face when entering retirement. The other is covering the costs of long-term care. And this is another bugaboo in the planning process. Long-term care is not going to be covered by Medicare. You need to make arrangements to prepare a block of cash or a long-term care policy that will cover those costs that aren't covered by Medicare. Now, this article says that more than half of Americans entering retirement today will eventually require long-term services and supports at an average cost of $120,900, according to federal research. It goes on to cite the cost of nursing home care, and this is not covered by Medicare. And a recent analysis by the National Council on Aging found that 80% of people over 60 lack the financial resources to cover long-term care. So we need to do a lot more understanding of longevity risk and the risks of those costs in our retirement, including long-term care. Now, how I approach this is a little bit differently than others. Others go to financial planners, pay a 1% AUM on their assets, which goes down the drain to a planner. Others, like me, are DIY. It's up to us to do the research. So when I see an article by The Hill on we don't understand our longevity risk, I start doing the research. Go to the study, go to the organizations cited, and start digging into the facts yourself. Understand how the Social Security Administration's actuarial office estimates longevity risks. One of the other things that you can do is read up on the subject, go to the sources of those articles, and learn more yourself. For instance, that article in The Hill cites the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, which is one of the better places that is studying retirement risk. This is their National Retirement Risk Index. So don't just read the Hill's article summarizing it. Go to these kinds of sources to learn more about how you can do your own due diligence in planning for your retirement. The center also has some neat resources. One of them is a blog called Squared Away. And this was something else I read recently. Retirement, depressing or uplifting? It's up to you. Planning for your retirement reduces the risk of a depressing time. Retirement's a bad word if you don't plan for it. But if you do plan for it, it can be an uplifting time. As I've said, my forced early retirement 7 years ago is the best decision that I never made. Did you take a moment to like and subscribe to this channel? The more likes and subscriptions this channel gets, the higher this will be in the search results. So I can share my lessons learned in a forced early retirement with more of you as you plan your retirement. As always, please take this as entertaining ideas from one educated consumer to another. Always do your own due diligence and seek out a professional if you need one.